We end up taking that $700,000 location and building it into today a $15 million company, basically 2.5 years. I played every role in the company. I paid the agents. I mentored them. I trained them. I went on listing appointments. That was how we got the first kind of core group of 75 realtors. So that really put us on the map. The fastest way to eliminate fear is to make progress. And the fastest way for me to do that is to take action, take progress, make it happen.
What's some of the best advice that you think you've ever gotten?
One of the best pieces of advice.
Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Cleef, and I'm thrilled that you're here. You're going to get tremendous value from the gentleman I'm interviewing today. He's been on the show previously. His name is Joseph McCabe, and he runs the Surefire Group. And kind of cool, he just told me they just announced that he's 17th on the Inc. 500. He's number one in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. And He runs several different companies, and so we're going to talk about leadership today. And you're thinking, well, what the hell does that have to do with multifamily? And I'm going to tell you everything, okay? So you definitely don't want to miss this episode. We're going to talk about how to build a business, run a business effectively, which he obviously knows how to do. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Welcome, brother.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks
to see you again,
having
man.
us on again.
Yeah, appreciate you coming over. We were both over on the East Coast. I was in Miami screwing around, and he lives in Fort Lauderdale. And we're like, shit, it's a shame I don't have a studio over there so we can do it over there. But we ended up both coming back. So why don't you take a minute and talk about maybe the first business you started and how it built into these other. I mean, I know, I can tell just by the types of businesses they are why you did it. But
Yeah.
Talk about it in your words and kind of give us a little chronology.
Yeah, so I started off in my last year of college, it was 2015 or so, and I started training people at LA Fitness. I met this realtor. I started training his wife, and I used to joke with him, like, come on, man, like, don't park your Mercedes next to my Ford Fusion because it's like, it doesn't look good. And
Makes that Fusion look bad, right?
Yeah, and he gave me the typical KW real estate pitch. Well, you can have one too, get your license, join my team. So I did that. I joined his team. I got my license. Keller Williams.
Yeah, I had Jay Papasan on the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know who that is?
Yeah.
Keller's.
I was just down with them last December,
Nice.
meeting with Gary.
Nice.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Very cool. By the way, guys, Gary Keller is a freaking rock star. He doesn't do interviews, or I'd be begging him to be on the show. But he wrote The One Thing, which is a fantastic book. And Jay Papasan is his co-author. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah, so I just when I was at Keller Williams, I didn't fall in love with the sales side, but I kind of fell in love with the fact that there were so many different verticals that these broker owners could make money off of, and Keller Williams seemed to do it right. So I couldn't afford a Keller Williams franchise. So 6 months into my real estate career, I made like $75,000. I had a start date for the Philadelphia Police Department. I decided to put that to the side. I was already in the military, and I started shopping franchises, which is, no one really does that, especially when you're not a broker.
I've done it, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And people were like, you're going to start you're not even a broker yet. And I called RE/MAX, and RE/MAX was the only company that took credit, didn't really care what experience you had, and they wanted the franchise fee.
Wow.
And so we, started our first franchise out in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, in a high rise, which was my first mistake.
The RE/MAX office.
Yep.
Wow.
And now we're still RE/MAX, but we're partnered with some of the largest KWs in the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
RE/MAX partnering with Keller Williams?
Yeah, it's not RE/MAX directly, but
Oh.
our RE/MAX brokerage, that silo,
Okay.
is with
Oh,
RE/MAX.
interesting.
But
Okay. Yeah, Keller Williams kicks ass. I mean, they do a
For sure.
fantastic job.
Yep.
Of course, EXP is pretty impressive as well, with that whole retirement component,
Sure.
to that. I went to one of their conferences. I was pretty impressed. They were begging me to get going, but that's like starting a whole new business.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, no, I'm not going to do that. So tell me what happened after that. So you kind of give us the chronology of all these different businesses, because that's
So from
pretty
there, I
interesting.
bootstrapped it. I found a broker that knew my dad well. He was in the police department too. He was a captain. I used his broker's license until I got mine.
Your dad was a cop too?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very
Yep.
cool. Okay.
Yep. Everyone in my family is
No kidding.
Irish Catholic cops.
Oh,
It's
and
just-
you're the outcast because you didn't do it, huh?
I did
Uh-oh.
become a cop in the military, though.
Oh, you
so
did?
I did
Okay.
that for 8
All right.
years, but
I was just watching Reacher last night. He was a military cop. That's
Yeah.
a great
I was
series.
CID.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love that. All the Lee Child books from Reacher. But anyway, I'm sorry. I keep distracting you. Keep
No,
going.
you're good. So we jumped in. We jumped from like $1 building to building, making all these mistakes. I learned everything really the hard
You
way.
mean renting at different buildings to do your businesses?
Yeah, trying to figure out what was going on, and I realized that I couldn't be in a high rise. It was like an office building, like a 4-story high rise. And I begged Remax to let me get into the city, which is tough because it's oversaturated with franchises. But they let us go into Manayunk, and the Manayunk
This is
section
in New York?
of Philly.
Manhattan?
Philly.
Oh, Philly. Philly, the city of Philly. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in that 6-month period from when we left Plymouth Meeting, went to Manayunk, we brought in about 75 realtors. I had maybe 3 before that.
Wow.
A year after that, the largest Remax in Philly, the owner was becoming sick. So he ended up selling to us. So we became the largest Remax in Philadelphia with about 200 agents. Now we're sitting at 300.
Wow.
And that whole time we were building a mortgage and title company, but it was kind of a slow go, especially on mortgage. So I started, really to keep the mortgage and title company alive, I started going out there and doing those partnerships with other brokerages locally and bringing them mortgage and title. Because there's a lot of companies that do title insurance joint ventures, but they charge management fees. No one really does mortgage joint ventures properly. So we go out there and we offer both with no management fees. And right now, because of the market compression, like you were saying, that there's so much compression, and in some markets, in our market, that's like 18% volume down, but in certain parts of Texas, California, that's 50, 60, 70%, depending on the brokerage. So they're looking for ancillary income now.
I'm surprised you're only 18% down because
it's not too bad out there.
It's worse than that. Okay, interesting. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it's going to get worse.
I think so.
Yeah, we're definitely facing a train wreck in the commercial side. So, these interest rates have just, hell, it's twice as much to the mortgage payment as it was a year and a half ago.
Yep.
So hopefully it'll come back down. So you started the mortgage business, the title insurance business, which are obviously complementary to the real estate brokerage, which is why I wanted you to mention it. And where did home health care come into the picture?
So home health care, and it might have been a couple days after our last interview in 2020, but that was when all the panic started, and everyone was selling their businesses online. People were freaking out, and I was trying to buy this Dunkin' Donuts franchise because I love coffee, and I was like, why not?
Right.
And they turned me down, and this woman in Texas called me back, and I had written her an offer to seller finance her home health care business in Lake Jackson. She did $1.5 million in top line revenue. She sent me the P&Ls, and I was like, this is actually a very profitable business if she got out of the way. And she ended up seller financing that to us for 1x EBITDA. We closed on it. The franchise owners were a couple older guys in New York. They love the idea.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
You bought it from her. The owners of the franchise. She was running a franchise. Got it.
Exactly.
Now I got it. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Okay.
And then when I had, they do their normal meet and greet, like
Right.
Remax does it. You go meet Dave Lininger and stuff like
Sure.
that. And they just kind of love the idea of bringing in new blood, because what I had done without realizing it, I knew nothing about home health care. I still joke today that I don't know if we bill Medicare or Medicaid, but it's one of them. And I just happened to meet the CEO of the Jewish Federation in Philadelphia, who ran their non-medical home care division, and he was describing what he did, and we were at a pizza place, just eating pizza at the counter. I'd never met him before. And I was like, this is going to be the dumbest thing you ever heard, but I think I just bought a company that does what you do. And he was like, yeah, it's pretty stupid. He's like, but yeah, that is what we do.
Oh, that's funny.
And we ended up, I said, well, look, I need help running the business, because by that time, it was only a couple weeks later, the franchisor was pushing 3 additional locations towards us from other people who wanted to retire. And so we ended up taking that $700,000 location and building it into today a $15 million company in basically 2.5 years.
That's top line revenue?
Yeah, top line.
Good for you.
Yep.
Good for you. Well, let's talk about leadership, which is really where I want to go with this, because it's really not a multifamily operation. It's just multiple businesses that you've siloed that complement each other, with the exception of the home health care. But so how big is the team for each one of these entities?
Yeah, so the direct leadership team is 7.
Okay.
There's one over each.
One over each company,
Yep.
right? And then you've got some other people, obviously, because there's only 4 companies.
And then so in the home care company, I have 3 partners total.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So
Okay.
2 guys are home care career guys. One's actually up in Tampa.
Okay.
One was in Philly. And then my other partner was our capital partner.
Okay. He brought in a capital partner. Got it. And so, okay. And do you have like one accounting component for all the companies, or are they done separately?
Separately, which is a nightmare. But we just switched from QuickBooks to NetSuite, which if you can learn NetSuite, it's great because you can kind of aggregate everything up to the Surefire Group, but then also break out, because we have to do reporting to our partners on title and mortgage, obviously, and do shareholder meetings. So we can just kind of click on an entity and build a P&L based on subsidiaries. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, because I could see how you could have some economies of scale if you brought things together.
Yeah, there's about 57 entities that flow up to the Surefire Group all over the West Coast and East Coast.
Interesting. Okay. So how did you, I mean, like let's talk about the brokerage for a minute. How did you create a vision there to excite agents to come work with you? Because you jumped from a handful to hundreds. What do you think was, I mean, obviously location helped, but how did you go about, communicating a vision and sharing that with these agents? I mean, talked about that a little bit.
So in the beginning of the brokerage, essentially we were operating as a RE/MAX, but all I knew was KW, right? So they're 70-30 and they have a $30,000 cap on average.
By the way, guys, that's the split they pay on commissions at Keller Williams. So he's talking about parallels between these. Getting a little micro, but I want to keep it more higher level if you don't mind. So from a vision, I guess it probably ties in. Sorry, forget it. Keep going. Keep going.
That's what I did is I didn't know, right? I had never sold an agent on joining a brokerage before, so I said, okay, KW does that. I want KW agents. I'm just going to cut it in half. So we did 85-15, 15,600 cap, and then I vowed to be there. Like every morning I was in the office, the typical startup thing, right? I played every role in the company. I paid the agents. I mentored them. I trained them. I went on listing appointments. And so that was how we got the first kind of core group of 75 realtors. The next thing that really set us apart was the acquisition of the largest RE/MAX in Philadelphia. So that really put us on the map. And then once we had 175 agents, it was fairly easy to get to 300 agents. The hard part was because I had made myself the face of that business, which is not very valuable in an acquisition scenario, but because I had made myself the face, it was very hard to get the agents to not go to me anymore. So we had to bring in a GM. We grew it to 300 agents and pretty hands-off now.
That's where it's at now?
Yeah,
gotcha.
About 300.
So you brought in, and I'm facing that same thing in my thought leadership business. It's all me, and so I need to get some help from my successful students to help with training, and I've started to do that, and they get a better, I'm going to say better, well, maybe better, but a different perspective on the different aspects of the business. So when you started these other verticals, the title insurance, the mortgage business, did you seek out people that were experts in those businesses to partner with? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, so our title company initially started as a joint venture of another title company.
Okay.
We ended up outgrowing them. We didn't have to buy them out or anything. We just kind of said, hey, we're going out on our own. The mortgage company, I had brought in a couple salespeople.
But wait a minute. Back to your title insurance, though. I mean, you have one guy that runs that? Has he been there the whole time, or is this somebody new? Or I mean,
we've had multiple leadership changes.
I see.
One of the things is that title insurance is typically a very local business. It's very important that because that title company typically will service a brokerage full of real estate agents, right?
Gotcha.
There's not a lot of retail title companies. Especially up in Pennsylvania on the West Coast.
So they're pretty much locked into whatever real estate company they aligned with.
Yeah, which means our leadership was used to operating that way too.
Got it.
So as we progressed and as we added locations, we just hired the woman who set up Zillow's title company,
gotcha.
Which they ended up closing, but
right.
She set it up. So we got lucky. We just hired her. But we needed someone that could kind of obviously know the minutia of title, right? There's a lot of little detailed things. But someone that also could operate at a national level and not get intimidated by that.
That's difficult to find.
Yeah.
Pulling back a little bit, a little higher, how do you manage the metrics on these different businesses? Are they done just by the leadership and they report up to you? Are you involved in these KPIs? How often do you measure? What do you measure? Talk about that a little bit.
So luckily the KPIs in all of our businesses are very they're somewhat simple, right? There's not a lot of them. There's really only a couple numbers that matter. On our
by the way, excuse me, KPI is a key performance indicator. It's a metric that whenever you own a business, you've got to have them. You're measuring. If you don't measure, you can't improve it. So you've got to measure what you're doing. What's happening with sales? What's happening with marketing? What marketing is working? What do you need to double down on? What's the sales process look like? Are there breakdowns? Like in the multifamily business, you look at leasing, for example. How many leads are we getting in? How many leads are converting to, how quick are those leads returned, calls returned? How many of those leads result in a showing? How many of those showings result in an application? How many of those applications result in a lease? That's what I'm talking about here. So that just to explain. So please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll use the title insurance companies as the best example of kind of simple KPIs,
okay.
And how we incentivize the growth of those in somewhat of a hands-off way. So one thing that was really popular on the East Coast that's always existed is every broker in Pennsylvania has a title company. Typically, it was run by Title Alliance, who's our competitor, and they sold shares to the agents, non-voting shares, a lot of ways to get them out. Mm-hmm. Well, once you do that, you can almost expect an 85% capture rate. So really, if we sell shares to the top 20% of the agents, the bottom 80% are going to follow suit. They're going to use whoever the broker tells them to. So the part we have to watch on a month-to-month basis, and you try to catch it up front, you could do different things, but we try to target between 70 and 85% capture rate of every buy-side deal that comes in. Because in PA, the buyer side realtors, control the title. And the mortgage is very similar. We make them shareholders. We target a much lower capture rate because for most people, mortgage can kind of be emotional. And if it's like
so when you say capture rate,
yeah,
the number that you're trying to capture the deals that are coming through the office.
Yeah, so if they have 100 deals, we want 85 of them.
Okay. So that's your metric. That's your target.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. And you're measuring that how often?
Every month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you involved in establishing the culture in these different businesses?
So that goes back to the really hyper local part, right? Like our core team, my chief of staff, all the leadership in the company, our culture is very much about building something really big and making a lot of money and having fun doing it. The culture of the individual real estate brokerages, you have to hire a boots on the ground local manager that understands that market, preferably is well known, and they kind of drive the culture alongside of the real estate broker.
Interesting.
And each market is so different.
Are you doing regular training in all these different businesses?
Yeah, we do. So on the healthcare side, luckily the franchise drives a lot of that. Mm-hmm. On the real estate side, same thing. We run a different training platform in each company, and then we rely heavily, just so that we don't have to do as much, we rely heavily on like the Land Title Association, the Association of Realtors. They always have training events, and we try to plug into those.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So each business is out there marketing and for more business. Talk about the different marketing methodologies for each of your different silos.
Yeah, so when I was running it, it was very different, right? Because I was running all four of these companies initially when we first met by myself. It was just me. And actually, you said something on the one podcast. I said, well, no one could do it better than me. And you were like, I'm going to push you that is not the case. And you were right.
No, it took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah.
And so, okay.
And I got lucky. I hired, the first key position that I brought in was my chief of staff, who was an ex-Green Beret. He left the military as a major. And I thought, wow, this guy's 5 years older than me. He's been in charge of thousands of soldiers and millions of dollars of CIA black cash and other types of stuff. I was like, so this guy can help me, manage the staff of the company. And so when I was running marketing, it was volume. It was how much volume can I get out? How many emails can I send to realtors? Can I send them every day? And how many responses can I do? What we've started to do over time is get a lot more targeted. So again, to use this,
are you still managing the marketing initiative, or you got somebody else doing it?
No, we have. So in the title company, we have a director of operations and director of sales.
Okay.
Same with mortgage.
Okay. So director of sales, is that the person driving the marketing?
Yep.
Okay, you combine sales and marketing. Okay. All right. Interesting. So let's circle back away from the businesses and just talk about business in general. Talk about some setbacks you've had, maybe a real stressful situation, and something that you think might add value to the listeners as to how you dealt with a problem.
We had a key employee in the title company. So back in the beginning, I said we were part of a JV of another title company, and that JV, I had a great relationship with them. The manager was the daughter of the woman who owned the other title company that we were a part of. She was running our title company exclusively. She knew where all the skeletons were, in the sense that there's a lot of messy stuff in title. So we knew we had to let go of her for a good year. And the thing that kept us from doing that fucked us even more in the long run, because we were petrified of what we didn't know, because we don't run title operations. And it was a mess. I mean, it was a total nightmare, but it turned out that the things that she was covering up were way worse than we should have just let her go the year prior. We had 800 unrecorded files. We had too much money in our escrow account, thank God, not less. So there were just things like we had to sheet things. So just when you realize someone's not a fit for the team, and it's not always easy when you're a small company, right? Because you kind of want to just
slow, fire fast.
Exactly. Yep. And and it is that dichotomy of like, you want to fire that person fast. You do need them to continue running while you're looking, and
that's always a problem. Well, in that vein, let's talk about hiring for a minute. So, when you're looking at key players for your different entities here, talk about the hiring process. What are you looking for? How do you screen them? How do you kind of vet them? What do you do?
We try to put them through the ringer, especially now.
Describe that.
Yeah. So we'll take. So we just hired someone to run sales for our mortgage company.
Okay.
He was with Allied Mortgage. He was coming over to us, and we basically had him interview with me, Derek, my chief of staff, our leadership team, every single one of them, and then most of our real estate broker partners.
Wow.
And he got
That's
a resounding
lot of
yes. It was a lot. And part of what I'm trying to do is say, okay, is this person really committed? Because they know enough about the company. We use a third-party recruiting service. So they bring them, they know about us, they know what we're trying to do, they know the mission. And the thing is, are they like, before we even bring them on and start paying them, are they willing to go through the ringer? And we try to put them through some extra tasks, have them do background checks, have them do personality tests, talk to key members of the staff that they have to collaborate with. And as long as we get the okay from everybody and no one's unsure, so kind of everyone has a veto card in a way. I mean, if someone is like, I don't know, then we move on.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. Was there anybody that in your career that either mentored or opened doors for you?
Two people.
Okay.
So the first one was this older guy that I met in the gym when I first got into real estate. He was 96-year-old guy that wore a Rolex Presidential, which I didn't even know what that was back then. And I would be on the bench or I'd be on a machine, and the only conversation we ever had was him saying, I'm going to work in over there. Well, it turns out that he owned upwards of 5,000 units at one point over time in Philadelphia. Bob Mazer, he's still alive. He's 96 today. We own a plane together up in Philly.
Really?
We fly together.
Wow.
So he was the first guy that really opened me up to wealth, right? Like going out to a restaurant and seeing him over tip, like he didn't calculate 20%. It was just $100. Like carrying around a brick of cash. Like it was just I grew up super middle class, didn't suffer. I don't have a sob story, but I never saw wealth. So he was my first kind of exposure to money and real estate and the sales side of it and the acquisitions. And then the second opportunity that I had came in 2020. The CEO of GoAbundance at the time was Chris Ryan. And he called me out of the blue.
Were you in GoAbundance at
the
time? Okay, that's a great organization. Yeah.
And he called me out of the blue and said, hey, you want to go to Necker Island next week?
Cool.
And I was like, next week? Sure. And he's like, well, it's $50,000. And I was like, wow, $50,000 for 3 days? Wow. And I didn't believe that Richard Branson would be there. I was like, I don't know. It just didn't sound right. But kind of following Grant Cardone, I was like, commit first, figure it out later. Went. And R360 was the group at the island. And so R360 they're huge in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
I see.
But it's like a network of family offices, all worth at least $150 million. So I couldn't figure out why the hell I was there because it was just me, my wife, and then basically the average person that was there was worth over $400 million.
That's the crowd you want to be in.
Yeah, and we were super intimidated because I wasn't anywhere near that. And I get in the pool one night. I'm talking to Charlie Garcia, who's the founder, and we hit it off. And he asks me, I said, well, how do I join R360? I didn't even know about the net worth requirements. And he's like, well, typically you couldn't. He was like, but we brought you here because we want you to run our Rising Leaders program. And so the Rising Leaders program is basically, a bunch of rich kids, and the goal is to give them access to things that they were never given access to before, and then give them a peer group that they can kind of lean on and get support from.
I like the idea.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so I got to join R360 as a partner for $350,000.
Wow.
But now I'm around all these people. So, I go to the Palm Beach meetings, the Miami meetings, the New York meetings. The founders of Discover Card are there.
Wow.
People like that. And so for me, it's allowed me
to
to not...
You paid $350,000 to join?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And I'm a partner. Less than 1%, but...
Wow. Holy
But
cow.
it's lifetime because the membership is every 3 years, $180,000.
Wow.
So I figured it makes sense. Just,
right.
Join. But it's been a game changer for me because any problem that I have, it just gets knocked down by the best resources that money can buy.
Give me an example.
So I wanted to look at asset protection.
Okay.
Hillel Presser, he's based out of Boca. He's
an attorney, asset protection attorney.
Top.
That's a topic I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, he's the best guy in the space. So he helped me there.
Give me an example. Well, if you can speak about it, sometimes you kind of keep it on the DL. But would you do some offshore trusts, or what did you do?
Yeah, offshore trusts. So Nevis.
Okay.
Nevis and the Cook Islands.
Yeah, I did in Bahamas. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Very
Michael
cool.
Cole's in the group too. He's one of the co-founders.
Okay.
He founded Crescent Capital, Abbott Downing at Wells Fargo. So that is he's the premier high net worth trust guy. When it comes to structuring that and making sure kids don't get too much money, or just making sure that when you pass, your wishes are passed on. He's the guy in that space.
Interesting.
And these people are just friends now. So for me, it was a huge level up that just any barrier that existed in my mind, it's gone.
Wow. That's extraordinary. Who you hang out with is who you become, right? You want to be around people think what you think is hard is easy.
Yes.
Wow, that's a great example of leveling up. Probably the best example I've ever heard, candidly. So what advice would you give somebody? It doesn't have to be real estate related. I mean, I know you own a lot of real estate as well, but what advice would you give somebody that hasn't taken action on their dreams yet? They're in a W-2, or maybe they're in the military still, or they know they want more, they know they deserve more, maybe out of analysis paralysis or just fear or limiting beliefs they haven't pushed through. Speak to that person.
Analysis paralysis is one of my favorite terms. I probably got it from you. That's what my entire book is about.
Oh, good. By the way, his book is called Maintain Your Gear. Talk about your... Okay, well, first finish your thought on analysis paralysis, and then let's talk about your book for a second.
So I think I start the book by essentially saying that I literally have nothing to sell anybody, right? Most people are not going to be someone that we sell to because we're selling to either geriatric patients or real estate brokers, right?
Gotcha.
Those are our clients. I don't have a coaching program. We have a YouTube channel that's free, and I give away more information and my time than maybe most people do. So I always tell people, reach out on LinkedIn, email me, ask me any questions you want. But I haven't known a single thing about any business that I've ever started. I didn't know anything about real estate except for if I buy it low enough and it makes a profit, it's probably a good deal. I think a lot of things are common sense, but people do try to overanalyze. They do try to get too much information. They go to these conference after conference after conference, and every single one gives you a different method, and a lot of it's just
so you're knitting the parachute after you jump out of the plane.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any other way to do it, unless you've got
there are other ways to do it. That's an extreme.
Yeah.
but I'm not making it wrong because obviously it works. But okay. So talk about your book, Maintain Your Gear. So that's a military phrase. You confirmed when I said that when I read the title. Thank you for the copy, by the way. So what do you speak to in here?
Yes, well, Maintain Your Gear. The reason I titled it that is when I was in basic training, I just remembered hearing that constantly, over and over and over and over again. Anytime someone would screw up, it was maintain your gear, maintain your gear. And that means that at every level of an organization, including the CEO, there are foundational things that need to happen every single day, right? Every member of the team, from the janitor to the title processor to the CEO, needs to be at a basic level prepared, because if the janitor doesn't clean, well, now your clients are mad they're coming into a dirty office. And so, in a military sense, if you don't have all your ammo, you don't have your first aid kit, you don't have a tourniquet, you haven't maintained those basic things that you need to, someone dies, right? So, you apply that to business and you have some basic fundamentals in place, and it's really just makes your life a lot easier. But I give true stories in there, how I've actually done deals, how I've seller financed most of our transactions, going to Necker Island, where I got money for deals, things like that. So it's really a step-by-step guide. And like I tell people in the book, if there's anything in there that you're like, I still don't understand that, reach out, because I'm happy to provide any information I can.
So it's on Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, I appreciate a copy. I'm looking forward to reading it. Back to my question. They haven't taken action. Tell them what to do.
So the first step, for me, is it sounds kind of crazy, but to literally take action, right? Like if you want to make an acquisition, start writing offers. If you want to buy a property, start writing offers. Yeah. One of the best pieces of advice.
That's a great. By the way, I want to stop you on that. That is actually massive action mitigates fear. My most successful students, by far, are the ones that take the most action. They're not the smartest. They're not the most well-funded. They don't have the biggest, the pedigree. They don't live in the big city, many of them. They just take massive freaking action. Yep. So I want to salute that statement, because that's huge. Now, talk about goals for a minute. Do you do your own goals? Do you write goals?
Yeah.
Does it start with that? Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So initially, I had kind of fallen into Grant Cardone and the massive action thing back when he did his second growth conference.
No kidding.
And so that was kind of like my first business.
I just went to the last one. I spent $20,000 front row. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to negate it. I'm not going to negate it. I enjoyed it a lot. Cool to see Tom Brady, Sarah Blakely, who I knew, and some of these other big hitters. Oh God, who's the actor that was there? Oh crap. Hugh Jackman.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's some cool people. He brings in some cool people.
I got to go to the Vegas one when he was still friends with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet.
I love those guys.
I have an entire book of notes that I read.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. They're awesome guys. I need to get on the show for sure. This one was in Vegas too, by the way.
Okay.
Anyway, please continue. So you're subscribed to that massive freaking action.
Yeah, right. Just go for it and write massive goals and write the goals in a way that you've kind of already achieved them, and maybe something that feels like it's out of reach.
Right.
Because what I was doing was writing next year's goal, and I would do that not New Year's. That's too cliche, but around then, right? I write the goal for the year for the company, and we would crush it. I was like, shit. Like after I'd found Grant Cardone, I was like, maybe I'm just not writing them big enough, and that's exactly what it was. We hit the Inc. 500 2 years in a row after starting to write these massive goals, and then also having, I guess, more of affirmations. It's like, I'm financially free. I do.
So you write these affirmations. Do you yell out these affirmations? Do you do anything else besides write them down?
I recite them every morning.
You do?
I keep them in my planner.
Wow.
Which I might even have with me.
Wow.
And they're right there. They're like on a laminated card, and I've got like 25 things listed.
List a few. You mind sharing a few?
Yeah.
You got them with you.
Okay.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Fantastic.
I'm sure some people just say that, but
no, that's awesome. Yeah. Of course.
So these are actually, these are the old sheets going back to 2019. That's how I used to do it.
Yeah, got them. I've got them in Word documents.
Them everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, fell out.
So guys, this is a clue. Okay, he's got all his goals written down. He's got his affirmations laminated, typed on a freaking card. All right, let's hear him.
All right. The economy creates opportunity. If I can't control it, it doesn't bother me. My personal annual cash flow exceeds $6 million annually. Countless money, good deals, and good people flow to me. I own a $250 million company. I'm an IFR pilot, which I'm a private pilot working on IFR.
Oh, no kidding.
So I'm writing that as
Very
if
cool.
I've already achieved it.
That's infrared, right? Where
Yep.
you can fly at night and whatnot.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
got it. Okay.
And what's another good one? I guess I know I'll make the right decision.
Nice. No, that's fantastic. I used to yell my affirmations out. They were typically I am statements.
Yeah.
Like
I saw them down in the gym.
Yeah. You saw them down in
Yeah.
the gym, right? The gym is down below here, guys, and I've got a whole bunch of them down there, and because they work, In fact, I used to yell them running down the street. In fact, my kids, it's funny. My kids at my boot camps, when they come help at my boot camps, that's the question they get most often. Did he really do that shit? Yell at him like, oh yeah, God. Now I got an exercise room. Nobody has to suffer through that, but. Because it works, make fun of it, but it freaking works. You're a great example of it as well. So, let me ask you this. You're not very old. How old are you?
30.
30. Jesus, you are killing it, brother. Good for you. So in this lengthy journey of yours, sarcasm, talk about some epiphanies. Talk about some aha moments where you're like, holy crap, I get it now. I think you've given us a couple. I think that group you joined obviously was one,
Yeah.
but any others that come to mind?
People just quit.
Yeah.
And I think that most people don't have a lot of perspective, right? Like you talk about in 2008 or 2006 losing everything.
Right.
Okay, well the $170,000 I spent on a lawsuit 2 years ago that felt like the end of the world really isn't that bad in comparison.
Right. Contrast it can be a helpful thing. It can be a negative thing as well, but yeah.
But I think it's important to study people's stories like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like to read books about, or I do audiobooks, but books about Churchill and books about just
Churchill's
successful
my favorite.
entrepreneurs, Rockefeller, JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, like these people, and just hearing the stories that they've been through and things they've overcome. And that puts things in perspective for you. And I think that the realistic side of that is, if you persist through anything long enough, it goes away. It's never as bad as you think it is.
Right.
And if most people just quit, they really do just quit. Because I'm going to call him out. He's a good friend of mine. He was my partner on my first real estate acquisition. I gave him an opportunity to join every single company on that list. And every single time, fear stopped him. The market stopped him. Not having enough capital stopped him. Whatever the hell it was. And that stuff just never stopped me, because I realized I didn't have a choice, right? I was kind of bootstrapping it. I wanted to do this. I was reading those damn goals every day. They were stuck in my head, and I was making it happen.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
What's the why that's driving all this?
I probably couldn't have told you that 2 years ago, but I could tell you that now, that I really think that for me...
No BS. I mean, go deep.
Yeah,
with me
no,
here, okay?
For me, it really is two-part. I'm on the board of Aerial Recovery Group, and we do a lot of anti-human trafficking stuff.
Oh, good for you.
I don't know if there's anything more fucked up than that.
No, there isn't. There isn't. My wife is huge on that. She just did a video on she's now my best friend. This hasn't happened that long ago, so I'm still use the wrong nomenclature. But she did a TikTok video on human trafficking. It's at 5 million views. Wow. Sexual trafficking. She's huge.
Maybe I can connect you guys with Aerial Recovery Group. It's owned by Brittany Turner. She owns one of the islands of Buck Island.
I know the name.
You know the name for sure.
I feel I know the name. Yeah.
She's 35.
Wow.
She's right next to Branson's Island.
Wow.
So that's one driver for me. And last year we gave over $300,000 for the company plus our time, right? Because they need military guys to go out and do this stuff, so it makes sense.
Very cool.
But then the other side of it, I had a son 7 months ago. I've
congratulations.
never run so freaking fast in my life.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a huge driver, because it was like, wow, he's counting on me. My wife's counting on me. And on top of that, the thing that drove me even prior to that, I think, was this need to just want to provide anything possible for my family, because I think money does have a way of solving a lot of things.
Oh, sure it does.
Maybe it doesn't solve everything.
No,
maybe it doesn't.
Can't
create
buy love,
happiness,
but it can buy. I suppose your opinion. Never mind.
It can buy the best treatments in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Medically,
right. Right.
And so I think family has always been a driver for me. And now this anti-human trafficking stuff, I think I never got to deploy in the military. Always wanted to. I tried. I joined different units to make that happen. It was never in the cards. So this is a way for me to use what I learned in the military and apply it in the real world.
Yeah.
Host charity
effectively
events.
deploying.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Well, can I give you a little coaching?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So my biggest regret in life to this day was coming home to my, what's probably now a $20 million mansion, which is literally right across the bay here. It's kind of funny that I lost. But coming home to that, and I'd play with my kids, but I wasn't there mentally. I was distracted. It's my greatest regret to this day. They'll tell you I was a great dad, but I didn't live up to my own expectations. So all I would do is tell you, you're a very driven guy. Don't lose sight with what's most important, and that's that 7-month-old and your wife. Okay, that's my coaching for the day. I'll leave you alone after
that's
that.
Hard.
No, it's the truth, man.
It's really hard.
Yeah. So what's next? What future opportunities do you see on the horizon for your Surefire Group? Do you have any thoughts? Or
We're in it.
Okay.
We're in it. We're in what we wanted next. I've been waiting for this for years because I knew the model made sense. I knew no one was doing what we're doing. Not the healthcare, not the acquisitions, not the brokerage.
Okay.
But the partnerships on title and mortgage.
Interesting.
No one was doing that. At least no one was doing both. And they were, I would say, they were smarter than me. They were charging management fees. I didn't even know to charge management fees. I was just writing these P&Ls and like, wow, we're 20% better than the other guy. And it wasn't until one of our underwriters said, well, yeah, you're not charging fees everyone else charges. Because of the market, and hopefully for our sake, I hope it runs as long as possible, because we are stacking. We'll have a JV in every state on the West Coast, maybe even 2 at this point, by the end of summer. We're in Hawaii. We're already in Oregon. We're already in California. We applied. Idaho, Nevada, Texas.
You're just getting licensed in these states?
So we'll go into these are the largest KWs in the country, most of them. So we'll go into the Keller Williams office. We'll build a mortgage company, a title company. We'll make all their agents shareholders.
They don't
Not
already
on the
have
West
them?
Coast.
Wow.
It's untapped.
Wow.
Untapped over there.
Crazy.
East Coast, saturated.
Okay.
But we're chipping away. We've already broken away many, the top KW franchisees.
So do you have a
just joined
sales
us.
team that's doing this, or who's doing this?
So that's the nice thing. We're only going to the broker owner or the principals of the company. So it's one person.
Okay.
Right? So we run a very lean team.
Okay.
I'm usually on all of those sales calls, at least
see.
the initial call. Well, the second call.
Okay.
But Alicia has been
She sets
the
the frameworks almost like a setter or closer model.
She's
like we do in our
I thought
coaching.
I didn't like hearing no.
Yeah.
She doesn't hear it. It
No
doesn't.
kidding.
It's like in one ear out the other.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it, love it, love
Fierce.
it. So tell me about a time you got your ass handed to you. Okay, you got your clock cleaned, and try to pick one where you can add some value with how it all came about and or how you solved it. A war story.
Yeah, so the biggest war story I have is when I started the mortgage company.
Okay.
At that time, RE/MAX had rolled out this franchise, Motto Mortgage.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be a similar concept. Seemed like a good idea because RE/MAX was a solid brand. So I thought, yeah, I'll be the first Motto Mortgage franchisee. Well, it didn't take long for me to become a semi-expert in everything that was wrong with that franchise. So I was their first franchisee, their first one to break away, and the first one in federal court.
Wow.
Now, that seemed like the end of the world.
Federal court because you broke away.
And we were in different jurisdictions. It was governed in Colorado. It was a mess. And at that time, I had no money for lawyers. So I got lucky, and I just happened to have this judge in Colorado that I guess felt bad and was letting me represent myself pro se for 2 years.
Holy cow.
2 years before I had enough money to get an attorney and fight that thing and win.
Wow.
But for 2 years, I was like, this is over any day. Hence why I set up these asset protection trusts and did these things, because I thought, I can never be a victim to this stuff ever again. I need to be bulletproof.
Right.
So that was one time where I literally thought it was all over.
You just rolled up your sleeves and you went pro se. My God, I can't even imagine.
And I ran
being in the
fast as
courtroom
hell.
for that crap. And the motions you had to try to create yourself and every. Oh, good.
And we didn't have ChatGPT back then.
Yeah, no. I mean, I used to own a litation support company, so I know the law
Okay.
very, very well. It was a big company, 60 employees. We did pleadings, preparation, everything. So I know a lot about it. To try to do it yourself on a federal case, no less, because the federal judges do not screw around. At all.
The clerk would call me and she'd say, you just got to tweak this and we'll be able to
oh,
file.
no
And I'm like,
kidding.
I was getting lucky. I was telling
Wow.
attorneys that, and they're like, this is impossible.
No,
like,
not federal judges just love to dismiss cases, screw with people. They're, they're notorious for it. Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What's some of the best advice that you think you've ever gotten?
So I think one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got was a time where I definitely was not prepared to be, a real estate investor. And it was the first time I went to lunch with Bob Mazur. And we're leaving the restaurant.
This is the 95-year-old guy with the Rolex Presidential?
Yep.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yep. And he actually wears this like extra, extra large suit coat. And the pockets like shifted like this. And it's because he's got a brick of cash and a Glock.
No kidding.
He manages single family homes.
Oh, wow.
And we're leaving. And I said, Bob, maybe I'll leave Keller Williams and I'll come work for you. Mm-hmm. And he said, why the hell do you think I would hire you? And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm just going to sell and I'll give you a cut of the profits. I want to be near you. I want to do that. And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, go sell 25 homes. And when you learn the value of real estate and how to make a deal happen, and you do it at other people's expense and not mine, I'll bring you on board. And I was like, okay. And sure enough, I went out there. I sold 25 homes. I brought him. I proved it. I brought him all the agreements to sell. And that day, he gave me a 96 property portfolio listing to sell.
No kidding.
And, I think what that did, it just forced me to kind of slow down a little bit more because I was running. And I don't, it might be contrary to some of the other things I've said, but that really helped me learn the business a lot more, kind of become an expert in title, mortgage, and real estate, and also learn to sell because that was our core business, was the real estate sales thing. So it helped me with recruiting. And it just, I think when someone knocks you down a peg like that, I think it pushes certain people. It definitely pushes me.
It stops most people, though.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that he's been asked that before, and he's probably answered that way before. I'll give you an example. I've had lots of people, ask me, how do I get rich in real estate? And I own thousands of houses, right? And so what I did was I would burn these CDs from somebody else's real estate class, and I'd say, listen to these and then come back to me. Nobody ever did. Yeah. Nobody ever did. Yep. So I'm sure he did the same thing, but you did. Yeah. Okay, and boom. Is there a book that you like that you gift more than others? I mean, obviously, your book, the 10X Rule, Grant's book.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grant's good. Okay, that's a good one. So have you ever bumped up against fear in any of these businesses, besides the example you just gave when you're getting your butt handed to you in this lawsuit and stuff like that? But I'm talking more about the fear prior to taking action on something, prior to buying or starting a business. Has that ever popped up? And if it has, how have you dealt with it?
It pops up in every major hiring decision, in every new deal, in every new market, in every new project.
Okay.
And I think that the fastest way to eliminate fear is to make progress. Any type of progress. Just that scares you to spend that salary, fucking spend it, and then you just got to figure it out. Then you just got to pay for it. And it's like, get that pit out of your stomach. And the fastest way for me to do that is to take action, take progress, make it happen.
Yeah, same here.
Yep.
Anytime I've got fear, I just take it. I don't care if it's the middle of the night. I'll get up and do something towards it, and then I can go to sleep. Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can't sleep. So what is your ultimate definition of success?
So I would use that word progress again, right? Just constant daily progress. I think for me, it's the ability to build something that, not necessarily to leave a legacy, although I hope it will, and I hope that it carries on forever after I die and all those things. But to truly, if I can make an impact in my immediate family's lives, and now in this new mission that we're running in the human trafficking front, if we can start to chip away and eliminate those things and help set some wheels in motion, because it's just amazing that there's not as much action in the human trafficking space as there should be.
Well, don't get me started on that, man. What's that movie that just came out?
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom, yeah. And it didn't show up anywhere major. It's like it's almost like there's a movement to prevent it.
Yeah.
It's nefarious. Honestly, it's kind of nefarious, the fact that it's not getting traction.
Yep.
Makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. How many of these freak pedophiles are really out there, that are in, positions of power and so on and so forth. It's got a real nefarious bent to it. But okay.
And I think it's easy to get for the media and all these people to just get the normal civilian to say, that's far-fetched. That's not true.
Right.
Because it sounds bizarre. Like, who the hell would do that? No, most people wouldn't do that.
Right.
And so it's very easy to get people to ignore it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me started. We could go down a rabbit hole down that. We could go down that rabbit hole in a big way. Do you have any favorite quotes that you live by, or that you that use as a like an impetus to get you to move? I know Grant's got some great stuff. Comfort kills.
Yeah.
Success is your duty. But any others that come to mind?
So yeah, it's the biggest one, and it is a Grant quote, was that there's no shortage of money, only people not thinking big enough. And that quote has gotten me into every single deal I ever did. I thought, well, wait, why do I need money? Why do I need good credit? Why do I need cash? If someone will sell or finance it, I can refi it. And just being in the mortgage business, I knew, if I refi, I don't have to put 20% down. I just get 100% financing. And so I started to do all my deals that way, because I realized, most people just don't do a deal because they don't have 20% to put down. It's like, we don't need 20% to put down.
Right.
So I started getting creative in a lot of these different structures, and that quote helped.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And then I have 2 pages worth of Ed Milet and Andy Frisella quotes. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll send them a picture of it.
Yeah, I send them to me. I'd love to see them.
Yeah,
honestly.
for sure.
Yeah, because I live by quotes. I love quoting and using that in my clips that I put out on my podcast. Yep. But well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you coming over here. It's great to see you in person, and and have this time with you, and just super impressive what you're up to. And we'll need to do it again in a couple of years, and you'll probably own Necker Island at that point. So anyway, I appreciate you coming by, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now, we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.